is a perfectly valid question to ask whether or not at this moment in time could be a turning point for Sunak's premiership. Now, why might that be? Well, Sunak has essentially got Brexit done. he's done the impossible by managing to get a deal done that only a few years ago would have been flatly rejected. The DUP ultimately will have to return to Stormont because this new Windsor framework makes them staying out of Stormont look completely ridiculous and makes them look to be completely fools, where the people in Northern Ireland are overwhelmingly in favour of the protocol, even now more so, a recent poll had shown, with the Windsor framework. So this does not make them look good. So eventually they will have to return because Sunak is already talking about trying to remove their veto, and they do not want to lose that. That is one thing they do not want to lose, because remember, if they go back into Stormont, they are not taking the first minister position, they are taking the second. One of their big reasons why they are doing this protest now is in the fact of that. They cannot accept that they are starting to lose power in Northern Ireland, but that's the reality that they're facing. The entire Brexit scenario themselves is one of certainly creating their own position. But now we're talking about the DUP, not, Rishi Sunak. But we'll get back to him now. So is this a turning point moment? No, no. Ultimately, when you look at voter priorities at this moment in time, the Northern Ireland situation is not one that the UK voters care about, which is unfortunate because, to be honest, they really should. But as we said before, I think this speaks to very, very much a very, very sort of pessimistic attitude among the UK population about politics and certainly their trust in politicians. Which, bear in mind, according to a recent poll, Lancashire's about 27%, which, to be honest, is not good. And that will have, obviously, bad outcomes. But can Rishi Sunak actually turn this around? Well, he's sort of got Brexit done. The Northern Ireland Protocol Bill, because of the Windsor framework, is now completely irrelevant. But remember, in the pipeline, going into the Lords, is the EU retained law bill. What will happen to that bill? Because if the UK decides to start diverging, as the Conservatives in the party, and again, those free market fundamentalists in the party claim that they want to do, but never exactly say what they want to diverge on, what they want to get rid of, it's a bit of a mystery, really, because they never are really that open about it. Of course, we've had Jacob Rees-Mogg talk about getting rid of the chemical regulations, which, as we've said, would lead to massive potential environmental damage. We're looking at a lot of public health damage. Not only that, but safety of workers working in chemical plants. And if you want an example, very, very recently, of how bad getting rid of regulations can really be, just look what happened a couple of days ago in the Ohio big train crash. That was carrying chemicals. That town is going to suffer for decades to come with the outcome of those chemicals. But if we get rid of those regulations, that is the type of thing that could happen in the UK. And I think that's the message we've got to start getting out, certainly in and around that. So would Sunak get rid of this bill too? We don't know. There is still a lot of support in this, and very much so, this came down to very much an ideological vote. People who were for Brexit voted for it. People who were against it voted against it. Ultimately, this bill passed. But even some Brexiteers were like, well, this bill seems a bit pointless, and it's very, very bad, to say the least. So there is a chance this bill could be put to bed. I suppose we'll find out about that in the next coming couple of weeks. Will that cause a big stir? Possibly. But of course, we've got bigger things. Remember, we've still got ongoing strikes. strikes are still a big problem that Sunak is still trying to face down. So far at the moment, they are ongoing negotiations. Whether these will be sorted out, who knows? But those strikes did not make the government look any better. Sunak was hoping that he could pin these strikes on Labour, which is why we said at the time Starmer should be careful about how much he associates with those strikes. Now, I know a lot of people disagree, but the thing is, if you'd allowed Sunak to start running on that, especially on the Conservatives, that, oh, these aren't just any old strikes, these are Labour-made strikes, that would have been incredibly damaging to the Labour Party and currently to their very favourable poll numberings. And remember, Ed Miliband has said he wants to expand union powers and undo some of the stuff that the Tories have said that they want to do with their union busting. So that is a very positive step for Labour. Not only of that, the crisis in the NHS, there seems to be no answer. Sunak has no answer to really solving this crisis in the NHS. You've got the cost of living crisis. Sunak, again, has no answer to this crisis. You've got the energy crisis. Now, it looks like maybe some of these energy-saving ideas that they did originally may be extended. There's also talk maybe that the ones with businesses might be dropped. Now, if those get dropped, you're going to be facing a lot of businesses that are suddenly going to face huge problems with their energy bills if that's the case. And almost for businesses, they go back to square one, where we're talking about, if you remember, we were talking about this constantly, of businesses really worried about their energy bills. So that doesn't go away. You've got a potential, and I say potential, rebellion over the budget. That is a very real possibility. Whether it will happen or not, well, we'll have to see what happens when the budget rolls around. And then, of course, you've got the May local elections. Remember, Rishi Sunak and his polling numbers are still in the dumps. Him doing this Westminster, this Windsor Protocol deal has not boosted his numbers. Because, as we said at the beginning, unfortunately, voter priorities, they do not care about it at all. Just not one moment. There may be some who care, who go, great, excellent, he's finally got it done. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not on, shall we say, UK voter priorities. So is this a turning point for Sunak's premiership? Not at all. He still has a ton of crises, a ton of Tory mismanagement that he still has to deal with, that he has shown no ideas to actually trying to solve the problems that have been created by years of Tory leadership. So this is not a turning point, but it is a turning point which will signal that the Tories are doomed, because they've got a lot of crises that they're still rolling on, that they're still not solving. As a result, this is not a turning point. This really is, well, maybe Sunak can, take the Northern Ireland issue off his list of his long list of priorities to solve. But the thing is, that's still a long list of things he's got to try and solve. And like I say, at the moment, the polls have not reversed. The Tory fortunes are still very much down in the dumps. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can help buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching. And we'll always see you next time. But till then,